I was telling a story for my whole life. I was telling a story that wasn't true. And I had been my own jailer in the sense
Mm.
of that belief that I was willing to cling on to, that I was all alone in the world. So sometimes when you don't know what you want, recognizing what you don't want is the guidance that you need. And that's the guidance that I needed. And it
Yeah.
set me on the path of remaking my life.
Aloha, friends. I'm Colleen Akiko, your host of We Be the Change. Welcome to episode 33, Embracing the Inner Shift. This is the second part of my heart-opening conversation with Brenda Heldoorn in our series, Living as a Portal of Presence, the inner work that changes the outer world. In this episode, Brenda shares her journey through despair, surrender, and awakening. The kind of transformation that does not come from bypassing the pain, but walking through it and letting it strip away what's false. This is a tender, vulnerable, courageous conversation about survival, faith, and rediscovering connection to the divine within. So whether you're currently unraveling or experiencing renewal, I invite you to breathe, listen, and remember, you are not alone. For bonus content, journaling prompts, and songs that support this kind of inner work, visit songrise.live, songrise.live. You'll find resources there to help you keep opening from the inside out.
There was quite a lot of your story that I just heard on Sunday that seemed very familiar. The experience of the physical pain that, in a sense, softens us. And it really brought me to a place of surrender where I was at a fork in the road where there was only two choices. One was to carry on, but something has to be different. I cannot carry on the way I have been. And the other one was to leave. It was that extreme. So without getting too dark and all of that,
That's okay.
um,
We actually have talked about suicide with Angelica Schaefer.
oh yes,
We were having a conversation similar to this one, and it's one of the first We Be the Change podcast episodes, actually.
uh,
He seems to just be speaking directly to some probably future listener who is contemplating leaving. And yes, it's rampant. And
yes,
that level of despair is really a prison that many people are finding themselves in these days. And to
absolutely.
know, yes, that the freedom is right there within the prison cell. When we surrender, as you said, for me, it's not even so much that it unlocks the metaphorical prison bars. It's just in the surrender, I see that there are no prison bars. It's part of
Exactly
the
right.
story. Yeah, that
Yeah.
in surrender, I can see that's not what's real. That's not what's true. Yeah.
And I was telling a story for my whole life. I was telling a story that wasn't true. And I had been my own jailer in the sense
Mm.
of that belief that I was willing to cling on to, that I was all alone in the world. Actually, I was raised and educated Catholic. I graduated from a Catholic girls' school. Shortly after that, I had turned away completely from all organized religion. I recognized a lot of illusion that was built into all of these stories, and not just Catholicism, but I didn't want anything to do with any kind of organized religion at all. And so I never had a personal relationship. I never felt a direct connection with the divine.
Mm.
Even though being raised Catholic and having the experience of being in magnificent churches with world-class choirs and all of the ritual and those kinds of things, I do remember feeling something very powerful in those rituals, but it never was for me. It was never a direct connection to me. It was just an atmosphere. And so I recognized the atmosphere, but it wasn't speaking to me. And when I say that, it's not as though I was excluded from it. It was exactly that I wasn't open to it. I didn't believe it was for me. I had internalized all of the shame and all of this stuff that goes around religions that tell us that we are unworthy.
Yeah. Yeah, we can find that throughout our culture, religious and otherwise.
Yes.
That's the first, I would say, false core belief that I was able to remember as a toddler, seeing myself so sad and asking that little girl who was me, "Why are you so sad?" And the little girl looking up and saying, "I don't matter." And so many of us feel, I don't matter. We can be 4 years old or 44 years old. It is so, so common. And
I'm in the way. I'm a burden. I make things difficult for my parents. I'm just a burden. I'm a
yeah.
weight to carry. Yeah. So,
And
I told myself all of those stories, and they're familiar. You know the stories as well.
we all have our own version, don't we?
Yeah.
And that same joy of, like you were saying, coming home, whatever that looks like, it's the same home for all of us.
Yeah.
I was just seeing it worded this morning as we being emanations of the same light or the same sun.
Yeah.
And however, wherever that realization opens, that is our sacred moment
Yeah.
of seeing it.
Absolutely.
What would you say are some of the most difficult obstacles that you had to overcome? It sounds like you had a lot of pain in your life, and you witnessed a lot of pain and heaviness, and you took that on your shoulders. And sometimes, yes, it makes us stronger even as it's grinding us into the ground. Is there anything in particular that really stands out as this just about did me in? It's kind of like, I always think about the diving board, like what brought you to the lowest point so you could go up to the highest point from there?
Well, literally, it was the ending of my marriage. When the marriage was falling apart, my son was about 11 at the time, and he was drastically negatively influenced by all of that tension and just all of the underlying tone of this relationship coming apart. And he started failing in school. Literally, he was failing everything. And I was very, very concerned, but that was the power that he had, the control that he had over his life. And he didn't have control over anything else, but he had control over whether he would turn in his assignments or study or participate in class and all of those things. So I made the decision, in speaking with my sister, I actually sent him up to Alaska to be with my sister and her family, because I felt that the school system up there had much greater ability to help him. He would get a lot more attention. And I was completely blind to the real cause of his struggling in school. It was all attached to the emotional atmosphere that he was stewing in. And so he was gone. He was up there. He was with my sister and her family. He was safe. Once he was there, I was free to make that choice to stay or go. I did attempt and I did fail, but the attempt was a serious one. It wasn't a cry for help, and it wasn't a cry for attention. It was none of those. It was, I'm out of here attempt. And I failed because my husband at the time called 911, and I was resuscitated and saved. And I was very angry about that. That wasn't my choice. So then I got to get my head around that. And you probably notice, and probably your listeners do too, but it's against the law to do that. You're not allowed to kill yourself. So if you survive, then you are required to get mental health counseling, and you must comply or you could be charged with a crime. So that was the first time in my life that I had ever been in any kind of mental health counseling. And it was not a good experience. I was going to say it was probably the worst experience I could have had with a mental health professional. But actually, everything worked out. Everything works out for our highest and best good. But this psychologist, he spent all of his time trying to save my marriage. And I had no intention of doing that. So his focus really wasn't on necessarily my healing or anything. He was trying to save the relationship, which I was not invested in at all. So, yeah, but that worked out. That worked out for my highest and best good as well, because it really made me realize what it was that I wanted, which started out as what it is that I didn't want. So sometimes when you don't know what you want, recognizing what you don't want is the guidance that you need. And that's the guidance that I needed. And it set me on the path of remaking my life. Yeah.
I can resonate so much with so many parts of your story. Yeah. Anyone listening who is experiencing similar dynamics, know that things that feel so unredeemable and horrible actually can bring forth what is beautiful in ways that nothing else can. Hard to believe in that moment, and yet here you are. I know you as one of the most radiant, deeply radiant people, and your depth comes from this depth of pain. It's like when we offer that surrender to that presence that is always present with us, and we receive that flushing, and we're more than willing at that point to let it go because it has been so sharp and so painful, and we're tired of it and we don't want to cling to it anymore. At that point, it's so astonishing how much space that creates in our capacity for joy, for the complete opposite of what we have just experienced. You are a walking, talking, teaching, counseling person attesting to this. Very appreciative. These times, I find so much division and confusion, so much to be afraid of. And our human impulse seems to do kind of what I hear you did, just bucking up and getting stronger. And if it's a heavier weight, well, put it on there. I've carried it thus far. And at some point, we do reach that surrender moment. After the surrender, what happened? What was different for you?
Oh, gosh. Colleen, I was so raw. And what I mean by that is that I was super sensitive to any kind of negativity, any conflict, any interpersonal struggles. I just needed to protect myself from all of that. And so I had my first experience at the Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Rosa, and I immediately started taking classes. And one of the practitioners that I had met and was talking to, she recommended that I give myself a break from all the media. And she suggested a couple of CDs, music CDs that had chants on them. And these were CDs that were produced by our very own and beloved Melissa Felipe.
I have those.
It was Chants of a Lifetime and Second Chance. And I played these CDs continuously on a loop. So what was in my mind was this replaying loop of beautiful affirmation. I couldn't listen to commercial radio. I didn't watch TV. I didn't read the news. I just completely removed myself from those influences because I really needed to heal. And I actually have told Melissa Felipe about her role in my healing through her music.
Thank you for being here for part 2 of Embracing the Inner Shift with Brenda Heldoorn. If something in this conversation spoke to your heart, let it keep working in you. We know that healing isn't linear, it's cyclical, sacred, and real. Brenda's story reminds us that when we finally stop trying to manage everything, something much larger begins to move through us, as us. If you'd like to go deeper or explore more conversations like this one, visit songrise.live for bonus content and receive also reflection tools and original music that supports the journey home to yourself. You can also access a free e-guide, Out of Your Head into Your Light. This is Colleen Akiko reminding you that we change the world by changing ourselves, one breath, one brave surrender at a time. Aloha.